Um, so anyway, guys, first of all, welcome. If you're a guest with us, welcome. We do this every Tuesday. You're always welcome to join us. We're all with Freedom Team at EXP, a lot of us. But again, this is not an EXP event at all. This is all just real estate and production. And you're always welcome to join us and bring whoever you want, invite whoever you want in here, hitting all kinds of stuff. This has been so good. I've told a lot of people, if you haven't been on here for a while, I mean, I know this, I got to figure it out for this year. Last year, my wife and I, we had an extra 160,000 in commissions because of these Tuesday masterminds. Just things that we picked up on here that I wouldn't have picked up on if I wasn't in here every week. I'm in here every week because, I volunteered with Kathy to help lead the thing. And I don't know that I'd be here otherwise, to be honest,
You saw your numbers of last year of $160,000 more because of. So.
Right, exactly. So anyway, I'm grateful to be here. It's good to be here. What we're going to do today, there's a video that was put out here recently, and we're going to go through this video. It's about 25, 30 minutes long, and I want to talk about it afterwards. I would say get out, a pen and paper, jot down some thoughts, some ideas, some notes. It all revolves around, it's an excellent video. We talked about this a little bit last Wednesday on our collaboration mastermind that we do every Wednesday, where we're just a free-for-all. We got talking about this a little bit, and we put it out there because it's a video done talking about just how to show your value to buyers to get these buyer agreements signed. All the stuff coming on with NAR. A lot of us, I know in Colorado, we've used buyer agency agreements for a long time, but even myself, it's easy to get lazy on that. We would get it like the day before closing just because we had to have it in our file, that kind of stuff, whatever. I do remember back in the day when I was with Craig Proctor, the coaching, like we had a whole buyer presentation, PowerPoint, and we would sit there and we would go through this. We'd meet the buyers at the office or the coffee shop or whatever. It's important to have stuff like this. And this video we're going to show you is excellent. Really, really good video. We're going to just go through it and play it here. Okay, and I would just tell you guys, right, like I said, take some notes, jot some ideas down, and then let's talk about this afterwards. Okay, Kathy, you want to add anything to that before we jump into it?
I think you've got it.
Let me share my screen, and we're just going to play this out. So really, really good. Make sure everybody can hear this. I think we're all set for it. So let's take a look, and then we'll come back and talk. Okay, here we go.
If you're a real estate agent that is wondering post-NAR, how do you communicate value in a way that gets your buyer brokerage agreement signed? Andrew Undem is going to share with us his exact process that I know is going to help you get more business immediately after watching this video. All right, Andrew, there is nobody, in my opinion, that does this any better than you. So this is what's going to be exciting is those folks that are out there and they keep hearing that they need to be able to communicate value in a buyer presentation. It's one thing to hear that, but it's a whole other thing to understand exactly what that looks like. I think everybody understands they need to do it, but they're not sure how to do that. So what's fun about this is, as you and I have talked about this over the years, I know you do it on the seller side, but the buyer side is a focus that a lot of people miss out on. So if you don't mind, let's just start at the beginning. What does this look like as far as, the typical meeting, and just kind of go through your process if you don't mind?
Yeah, I think we've all heard you have to showcase more value on the buy side, and it's been beaten to death on the seller side and our marketing proposal side. But how do you do it on the buyer side? You got to show value. And I hear a lot of people say those words, but they're not actually saying this is how you actually show the value. Right. So what we're coaching our agents and our team is how to show the value. Okay. And before we get into the nitty gritty, the key thing here is you have to be comfortable. Okay. Everyone knows bond and rapport is an important thing and how to make other people comfortable. You're never going to make someone else comfortable unless you're comfortable. So look, you're going to win through reputation or preparation, ideally both. Okay. But you got to be prepared for some of this. And that's probably why you're watching this and you're subscribing to Jimmy's channel, because you want to get better. So when we're talking about a buyer situation, I like to draw out everything on hand. So I don't care if we're meeting at the office, we're meeting at an open house, I'm hanging out at my kid's swim meet and I'm talking to a parent. You have to be able to articulate the value proposition of buyer agency in a compelling way where they're going to agree to pay you 2.5, 3, over 3%. So that's a lot of money a lot of times. So this is a real conversation. So when you break this stuff down, and also because it's a dynamic environment, you have to be fluid. Okay, so what I say here, you can use pieces of this, move it around, make it your own, but you're not in a vacuum. When you're at the open house or you're doing a buyer consultation at the office, which is what you want, or you're out in the wild, You have to be fluid with this stuff. You have to be unconsciously competent, and that's only going to happen through preparation. So with those bases covered, if you're talking to a buyer, there's a couple kind of key things here. How does an agent provide value? Well, what you want to do is you want to draw out, here's everything that happens in that transaction. Okay. Starting with, we all know pre-approval, right? So that's a piece. Then you have your home search. That's a piece. Market dynamics. That's a piece. Offer research, not making the offer, but researching what you might do for the offer is a piece. The components of an offer is a piece. The contract period, settlement, and post-settlement. So there's like 8 or 9 big pillars where you can provide value. Okay. So I'm just going to rattle these off, Jimmy, because when we're talking about these stages throughout the buyer journey, it's your opportunity and dare I say your obligation to provide value to that buyer. Okay. So on a pre-approval.
Let me say this, Andrew, because I know that it's hard to do it here because you and I have sat down and you've actually drawn this out just like you do with someone.
Yes.
If we can you record that after this? And then if somebody wants that, we'll have it down in the show notes if they're watching this on YouTube, or if we don't have it in there, just email me and I'll send this to you. Would that be okay?
100%. Because what I'd like to do is draw it out. I don't have my iPad today, so I'll record myself doing this. And you know what? I did it right before the call. This is what it looks like. Now, you can't read my chicken scratch, but if you put this on a piece of paper, each one of these words is compelling value in real dollars. So say the first point, pre-approval. So Jimmy, when you're going to buy a home, it's really important that you understand all the loan options and the different programs available. Here in Baltimore, a lot of times buyers don't know they can get grant money, they can get tax credits, and there's so many different programs through mortgage brokers and banks that can unlock some value for you. So that's why it's really important to have an in-depth conversation with a mortgage person, to understand, can you pick up some free money? What's the best program for me? Should you do 1% down, 5% down, 20% down, 50% down, and really understand what type of mortgage product you're getting? And one of the things we do, one of the components of value we bring to the relationship is we guarantee our buyers the lowest interest rate. And how we do that is once you apply for a loan, we're going to help you shop that loan with other mortgage companies. Now, the loan officers don't love it when you do this, but my job is to get you value. So I'll get you the lowest rate and the lowest fees. See, time out. When you're talking about pre-approval, now we're talking about real money. I'll guarantee you I get you the lowest interest rate and the lowest fees. That's a component of value. And then you explain the way to get a real advantage when you're going out to buy a home is not just to get pre-approved, but to verify all of your assets. This is doing heavy lifting before you start the process, because that mortgage loan officer, we're going to coach them up on how to help us convey to the seller how strong you are. And if they already have your documents, they have your assets, and it's verified, we can close quickly, and they can help us coach the listing agent on how to talk to the seller. Boom. So that's one pillar. Okay. Pre-approval. It's not just, oh, I hope you can buy. I hope you're qualified. I hope I don't waste my time. It's no, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get money, save money, get you the lowest interest rate, and have an ally on our team to win this deal. Boom. Now we're talking about.
Can I add something there?
Yes.
This is what I love is that immediately you go into how the differentiators here. So when you talk about this, and you say most buyers don't know, I mean, that's immediately, that wording, every word has value. And by creating that situation where, wow, I don't even know this. Now you immediately almost pique their interest, not just pique their interest, but you've given them something they may not have known about. The other thing, I love the word unlock value for you. So these are things like using those things, guaranteed lowest interest rate. Look, lenders don't always like this, but that's my job. I love the way you're phrasing all of this. And look, if you're somebody that's listening to this, what you just did on the first of one of these 9 or 10 or 11 pillars is more than 95% of agents speaking the value that they bring. And some of this, we do these things, but we don't communicate them. So I'm gonna step back, but I just wanted to say, listen, this is going to be a video you're going to want to watch multiple times, because just in that one little thing, that first pillar that Andrew was talking about, there are 2 or 3 very critical words that you can use that will absolutely get you the opportunity to get more buyer brokerage agreements signed just right there. So I'm going to be quiet as much as I can, Andrew. I get excited because I know this is going to be so good. Listen, stick around to the end of this thing, because the way that Andrew closes this thing is pretty special as well.
Well, Jimmy, it's like what our friend Sharon always says. And look, I didn't come up with all this off the top of my head. I find the smartest people I can. I kind of try to copy it, put it into my own language. But Sharon always says, showcase complexity, deliver simplicity. So this process can be complex just in that first pillar. Oh my God, there's so many different programs. Can I get some money? Is this person going to be an asset or a liability? Am I going to be prepared? So that's what you want to do here. And you always have the consumer in mind. What my friend Alan Dalton always says is you have to focus on the consumer. By the way, Jimmy, you know this. He wrote this book. This is a whole book on what to do on buyer agency. Just came out.
Yeah,
I read it like 4 times.
Yeah, it's great.
There's so many ideas in this thing that you can put in your presentation too, but I'm just sharing you kind of how I like to do it because it's just logical, rational, boom. Okay, so we got pre-approval. Now let's talk about your home search. Now I'm skipping the rapport steps of, hey, what are you looking for? Of course, you're going to uncover that. Right. And in our business, it's pretty easy. They want to move, right? They want to buy something for whatever their reasons are. Of course, you want to get their non-negotiables, their nice to haves, any critical dependencies on timing and budget. Okay, but now we're going to jump into the meat of it. Now we're trying to kind of teach them a little bit. We're going to be a professor here. So, okay, the first thing we got to do is got to lock in this pre-approval. Next bullet point. When you're searching for homes, how are you doing that now? Oh, I'm looking on Zillow, whatever they say. That's awesome. Hey, that's what everybody does. And they're not seeing all the off-the-market inventory. So totally do that. Look for homes, but you're only seeing homes that an agent has put in the MLS that's populating these third-party sites. A lot of times these sites don't have all the coming soon listings, which are homes that are going to be coming on the market soon. We have to pay attention to that, particularly in a low market environment. A lot of our buyers, Jimmy, are saying, God, I'd love to buy, but I just can't find the right house. Well, that's because most agents are lazy. Hate to say it. They're going to wait for you to find a house and they're going to show up and hopefully collect a fee. That's not how we roll. Okay, because we fight to help build equity with our clients before they even buy. So the search process, you're going to see everything on the market. Then we have the coming soons. Okay. But here's where we've helped a lot of our buyers is all the off-market properties. Did you know you can see every single house that someone wanted to sell that didn't sell? Those are called either expired or canceled listings. We want to look at those. How about all of the pre-coming soon listings? These aren't listed as coming soon, but we know they're coming. Some people call those pocket listings. We have access to all of those as well. New construction listings. Typically, our builder will put 1 or 2 listings up, but really there's 30 or 40 there. Different floor plans, different lot sizes, even different communities. So understand the search process. That's why it's important for me to really know what you're looking for. And most buyers don't know exactly what they're looking for until they've gone and seen a couple, which we're happy to do. But always be thinking of what you're going to be searching for so I can unlock some of this inventory. Jimmy likes the word unlock. We're going to keep unlocking stuff for you.
I love it.
Now, as you're searching, you have to understand the market dynamics of what's going on. Okay. The market dynamics are just a relationship between active pendings and solds. So it's kind of nice to know if you're zeroing in on a specific town, a specific school zone, a specific area, what's the average list to sales price ratio, which just means, are they getting full price? Are they getting a little more than full price? Or are they getting a little under full price? Historical data is very important because it's going to help us create a compelling offer. Okay. What's the average days on market? How long is it taking these homes to sell? Are there any closing costs in these deals? And we can look at the historical data and see what's going on in the market. Now, nationally, it's what you hear on the news. That doesn't matter. What matters is in your micro market, in this zip code, in this price range, if you're looking between 500 and 600, average days on market, list to sales price ratio, what's the month's supply of inventory, all these things. And I'm going to walk you through all that. But it's going to be really important to study this because I want my buyers to know more than most real estate agents by the time they're done. Because that's how you build equity. Every buyer wants to get a good deal. Do you guys want to get a good deal? Okay, we're going to talk about that. 2, once we find the property and you see one you like, and look, this is a process of elimination. We try to eliminate as much as we can. A lot of times you can eliminate it based on price, based on area, based on condition. You don't like the pictures, the island's not big enough, whatever it is. But if we can't eliminate it, we're going to go see it in person. And if we can't eliminate it in person, sometimes they smell like cat piss. Eliminate that one, right? If we can't eliminate it, we're going to do a little offer research because every good buyer's agent knows, always touch yourself. What every good buyer's agent knows is we get paid in direct proportion to the information we gather, not the information we give. So my job is to gather intel once you're interested. I want to know exactly how long has this home been on the market? How many showings are they getting? Why is the seller selling? Is there any critical dependencies for the seller on what they're looking for in terms of time frame, in terms of pricing? What did they buy the home for? What type of financing do they have? When they bought it, did they get a concession? These are all pieces of information we can use and potentially leverage to get a better deal. Okay, that's my job. That's the offer research phase. Again, once we've identified something that we're considering. Now let's talk about an offer. And this is really important. I've done this so many times on a napkin. We're at the bar. Hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. I immediately go into the 5 components of an offer. Okay, so guys, look, when you're thinking about an offer, when you're looking on Zillow or wherever you're looking, when you see a house, a lot of times people say, oh, it's listed for 400. I wonder if they take 380, which is a fine question. But an offer really boils down to 5 things: purchase price, closing costs. Have you heard that term before, closing costs? Let me explain it because, and then I go into it. Hey, that's transfer and recordation taxes. That's your title fees. That's, you break down closing costs for people, and I'll do it when I do my video, but for brevity, I'm not going to dive into that. Purchase price, closing costs, contingencies. Okay, you're always going to do a home inspection. You're always going to have typically a financing contingency, an appraisal contingency. That's my job, is to protect you. When we get a house under contract, you have the right to buy the house. You don't have to buy that house. And keep in mind, the seller has one house to sell. We can buy whatever we want. We do not give our power away. So purchase price, closing cost, contingencies, deposit, and settlement date. Okay? There's 5 pieces to an offer. So when you're looking at homes, and I'm sending you some of this off the market inventory, what a savvy buyer, what our buyers think is not, oh, I wonder if they take 380. Hey, I wonder if they take 380, give us a $10,000 credit, give us 10 days for a home inspection with a $3,000 deposit if we settle in 21 days. Now we're talking. Now we're talking like a buyer who knows what's going on. So you have to understand that is the offer process: purchase price, closing cost, contingencies, deposit, settlement date. Bang. And you can break in some time frames in there too. 10 days for a home inspection, 5 days to apply for the loan, 21 days for mortgage approval. Okay. Once we get through that, how we submit an offer is unbelievably important, because guess what? We sell 500 homes a year. I'm on the listing side on a lot of these, and most buyer's agents disqualify themselves based on their lack of communication and how they professionally present an offer. I got an offer today in 5 different PDFs, no summary, no pre-approval letter. Even if that's the best offer, I'm thinking, man, I'll explain to my seller, I don't really know what's going on with this agent. I'm not sure if their representation on this side is going to be smooth sailing. So how we present the offers is very important. And what a great buyer's agent does is we package it up in one clean PDF, give them a beautiful summary, have our team involved, which is our verified mortgage professional who has all your documents, and we submit it over, and we coach the listing agent on how to present this to the seller. See, unfortunately, we play a little game of telephone. I don't get to talk directly to the seller, but I get to talk to the seller's representative. And a lot of times, we can influence that conversation between the listing agent and their seller. But that's black belt stuff. That's what we do.
Hey, before you move on, because I don't want to miss this subtlety, like you were talking about the psychology of when you're referencing, great agents, and you're touching and to speak to that psychology a little bit, if you don't mind, because I think it's a subtle thing that makes a big difference as well.
Well, what we're trying to do is lead someone throughout the course of a transaction and showcase complexity and deliver simplicity. And no one wants to follow anyone that they can't learn anything from. Now,
That's right.
If the client thinks they know more than you, and God bless them, most of them do. Most of my clients do, until you can showcase, here's all these components of value we bring to the relationship. And that's just a little, I guess the NLP style thing, where if you're looking at them and you're holding eye contact and you're touching yourself and you're nodding, you're delivering a lot of subliminal messaging saying, I'm the guy. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to battle with me. You want me on your side, not the other side. So that's very important. And like Jimmy, you've heard me say this many times from stage in the talks, is what's crazy is they don't even actually have to believe everything you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
They have to believe you believe what you're saying.
That's right.
So if you don't deliver this properly, it could blow up in your face. That's why, hey, look, reputation or preparation. If they don't already know you, and look, a lot of our clients, they come to you, they've seen you online, they're like, just show us the way. And that's great. But sometimes that's not the case. And it would be nice to work with more strangers and not just our sphere of influence if you're trying to sell 50, 100, 200 houses a year. You have to be able to get everybody.
Right.
And when you're in the red zone, and when you're talking to a ready, willing, and able buyer, and they're thinking, should we use this person? Should we not? Should we sign a buyer's agency agreement or not with them? You're in the red zone.
Right.
And when you're in the red zone, you don't miss.
That's right.
Navy SEAL sniper, center mass. We got to blow a hole right through them in a good way, in a way that's going to help them get what they want. Because one of the little lines I always sprinkle in there is, you know what my job really is? My job is just to help you get what you want and do it in a fashion in which you're going to say nice things about me on the internet. Ha ha ha. Now, that's a little planting of a review there. Okay, you can stop anywhere and say that. So contract phase. This is where a lot of people miss as well, because administering, I got this from Alan, Buyer Agent Be Aware, in his book, how you administer the transaction once you have a contract, very important. So once we have a signed contract, all the dates become live. We have to apply for that loan within 5 days. We have to schedule that home inspection within 10 days, whatever the contract stipulates. In each step of the way, our whole home services ecosystem is going to get involved, because now we have the lender, we have the appraiser, we have the inspector. Sometimes there's multiple inspectors. Is there a well? Is there septic? Is there a pool? Are we talking just structural and mechanical? Do we need someone to look at the roof? I have these key relationships. And because we're administratively gifted, and I have a team that helps me with this, is we're going to be so on point that we're going to push this transaction forward in a powerful manner, and while maintaining your protection throughout the contract period. Okay. And by the way, I know every single appraiser in Baltimore. We've sold 5,000 homes, and I've saved every appraiser's number. So we have relationships, and we can play this game if we need to. Okay. But most of the time, again, through the contract period, we're going to logically explain our situation. For example, something's up with the home inspection, we're going to get a credit, or we're going to have them fix it. And instead of them just saying no, we're going to coach the listing agent on how to talk to their seller throughout the process. And then, of course, it's settlement. One of the components of value we bring to that relationship is our title attorneys here at Home Sale Settlement Services. Will guarantee the lowest title fees. We'll settle anywhere, anytime at your convenience, and we'll almost always be able to get you a reissue rate. What's a reissue rate? Well, title insurance, the person who bought the house that you're buying, they have a title insurance policy. Most agents don't do this. You can call them and say, hey, could we get a copy of your policy? And it cuts your fee by 50%. I'll drive your closing costs down. That's my job. I'll get your closing costs down because I can effectively manage the entire real estate ecosystem. So, guaranteed lowest rate, best loan program. I'll get you a discount on your home inspection. I'll find off the market inventory. I'll help you get what you want and negotiate like a beast. And I'll have you all the settlement charges less because we have volume. And if you don't have volume, maybe your office does, or maybe your brokerage does. And then post-settlement, you say, look, at the end of this relationship, I want you to know we're just consummating. This is the beginning, and I'm here for you. So if you need a contractor, a painter, a mover, anything, you have access to our clients only home services guide. And that's how we like to represent a buyer. So do you have any questions about what I went over?
Oh, this is so good. This is so good. And see, what's great about this is you literally just did this off the top of your head because you've done so many of these. So talk to the person who maybe has not done one of these. What does that look like as far as training for your team? Is it role play? Is it laying this out and just practicing this? Or how are you teaching people to move from where they are to where you are, or to at least start heading in that direction?
Well, look, if you're going to be a real estate practitioner, this is your job. Okay, so we need to know these things. And it's not just opening doors and showing property. And that's how the public views these buyer's agents. We're all fee pirate scum. Okay, we're overpaid. That's actually not the case. But we let people believe it because we haven't developed the skill to articulate exactly what we're doing. So when you really think about it, and again, I'll draw this out for you. We'll put it in the comment on YouTube.
Right.
We'll make sure they have a place to get it. All you're doing is talking about exactly what you do. Do you help people get pre-approved? You do. Do you help them search for properties? You do. Do you help them understand market dynamics? You do. The key is in each one of these bullet points, I probably missed 10 things. There's other little pieces of value you can put in there. And then the one thing that I love that Sharon does, now this is a Sharon thing, when he talks about, hey, real estate's about contracts and power players, and every real estate consumer should understand the 3 agreements that govern a real estate transaction.
Yeah.
There's a listing agreement between the seller and the listing agent. There's a buyer agreement between the buyer and the buyer's agent, and there's a purchase contract between the buyer and the seller. That's all it is. Now, I'd actually probably frame that up front, maybe before you even get into the pre-approval. Because at the end, after you've shown this value, you say, look, typically how it works, have you heard about the lawsuit? Most people have, but they don't know what's going on. You just draw it out and say, well, typically all the money in the transaction, the buyer's giving to the seller because they're buying the house. And then the seller would pay the listing agent, and the listing agent would share their commission with the buyer's agent. That's not going to be the case anymore. Instead of the listing agent paying the buyer's agent, the seller can pay the buyer's agent directly, or the buyer can pay. But it doesn't matter because it's all in one pool. Now, in order for me to represent you, I have to have an agreement signed saying, hey, this is my agent. And whatever number we put in there is the max I can get paid. So I always like to put in there 3%. Now, a lot of times, 96% of the time right now, and this could change, right? Because August is coming. The seller's going to be offering 2.5 or 3%. If they're offering 2.5%, I'll accept that. If they're offering 3%, we'll accept that. That's already predetermined. If the seller's not offering it, that's when we're going to have this conversation to say, hey, look, the max I can get is 3%, and we'll work that out in negotiation. But just so you know, we can't go under 2.5%. And then I just leave it at that. You stop talking. And you look, and you tell you what, I've gotten so I'm working with 5 or 6 buyers. As I was telling you, Jimmy, I'm back in the scene. I'm back in the weeds. I'm taking buyers out. I'm taking listings. I'm enjoying it. I like doing this stuff.
Me too.
If you can explain that you're going to save them money throughout this process, because guess what? The most consumers, even if they've talked to agents before, they bought a house before, they've never seen this on a timeline with 30 things that you're going to do. And you are going to do them. You're not creating extra work for yourself. You're creating transparency. You're creating honesty. And the fact of the matter is, you just want to get them what they want and hopefully have them say nice things about you on the internet, because you're going to deliver some unexpected extras in there. You're going to find them some property, and you're going to negotiate properly. Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. And there's a lot of different complexity to it, but
listen, this is the thing, and this is what I love about this. And so, is we keep hearing about that we need to communicate value. Well, what you did is just articulate a process to be able to communicate value. So from that standpoint, whether you're an agent that this is exactly how you do this, I mean, I would copy it almost word for word. But if you're someone who wants to add some things maybe that you do, or maybe eliminate some things that you don't do, if you'll follow this timeline, this is absolutely going to give you a upper hand on your competition. So if you're an agent and you're listening to this, and you know there's other agents that are friends of yours that maybe are wondering what they're going to do as these changes happen, or maybe you're having difficulty communicating that value, I would encourage you, share this information with them. Watch this video multiple times. Pause, go in there and write this out in your own language and in your own tone, in a way that you have confidence when you're presenting this. Andrew, man, I just appreciate your transparency with the industry. This is going to help some people. And so, listen, if there's an agent out there that has a referral for the Baltimore metro area, how would they get in touch with you and your team?
Well, we're easy to find. We're the Sure Group Real Estate. Sure Group's our team name. Sure Group Real Estate, anywhere on social media. I'm on Instagram @Undem. Call, text, email. And like I always say, if you give us a referral, it's like Shaq in his prime in the paint. We're dunking this.
That's exactly it. And let me just say this, as someone who has experienced passing that off, and got the assist, he's absolutely telling the truth. So I appreciate everything, Andrew. Listen, I know you guys got some value out of this. Make sure you reach out to Andrew, let him know how much you appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Cool. Some good stuff.
That was really good stuff.
Yeah, let's open it up here and talk a little bit. I saw that about a month ago, I think, and I sent it out to a bunch of people because it was just like, I watched it. I was like, wow, okay, there's, with everything going on right now, what are some thoughts? Let's just open it up. What are some things you guys pick up on that? What would be good to hit here? Quick thoughts, questions.
What was some verbiage or a tip that y'all picked up that you want to implement in your own buyer presentation? There was so many, I couldn't even write fast enough, honestly.
All of it.
mean, I think when he had that thing, you know, most buyers don't know. Most buyers don't
Mhm.
know, da, 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 whatever. It's like, you know, I think that's a good line. He mentioned that unlock value.
I loved, like, even going back to the beginning, one of the first step he said is the pre-approval. The verbiage he uses around the pre-approval. How many times have I just said to a buyer, you know, we need to make sure that you can get approved. You know, this is the verbiage I've always used. And the reason that that's most important is because, you know, what the worst thing in my mind that can happen is we go look for a house, you fall in love with it, and then you can't get qualified for it. So I always put the emotion behind it when I said that, but that's really all I would say. I love where he says, we guarantee to get you the lowest rate and the lowest fees. I have a couple of preferred lenders I utilize, and of course we all, you know, probably give some preferred lender information, but I actually do exactly what he said. Especially if they come with their own lender, and I asked them to get an estimated cost sheet, what the rate is, you know, that they're being quoted. And I do exactly that. And I had an example with a client a couple of years ago who had their own actually, no, back up. It was a new, he wasn't a new lender. He's a highly respected lender in town. I referred him. I thought, I'm going to give this guy a shot. He does a lot of loans, blah, blah, blah. I referred them to this guy that I'd not used before. And he does a lot of volume. And so as we were going through the transaction, they got 3 estimates. This is like halfway through the contract period. And I said, and they said, I'm not really sure which is best. I was like, well, send them to me. Let me look at them. Long story short, he had the estimated interest rate and the closing cost and what the cost was going to be for each of those rates. The lowest one was way higher than what I knew the current market rate was and what the fee should be. So I had my client, I called the lender myself because I've referred them. And I was like, what's going on with these rates? Like, before I called the lender, I called one of my preferred lender who I'd used a lot and said, hey, if I have a client who's got X credit rate, because I asked him, I was like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, what's your credit score? I just want to make sure that you're getting the best value here because these seem high to me. So they gave me their credit score. I go to another lender and said, assume this credit score, this is the price, this is what they're putting down. What's today's rate if they were to call you and lock a rate in? And what is the lender cost for them to do that? So she told me. I go to the other lender and I was like, hey, what's going on here? He said he was like he would be like a 7% agent, like basically just felt his value was worth it. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to have to give them another name, and I'm going to just tell them, like, your fees are just way higher. And I had him shift midstream to this other lender. They saved $8,000 literally in closing cost from the lender fees, because he was charging points and or origination fees on all 3 options he gave them. And I switched them over to a lender that didn't charge that. So to be able to articulate the value about how you can help your clients, you know, through the loan process. So that was a long explanation, but that's just an example of being able to articulate. And I've not clearly ever articulated that in a buyer consultation. And so I personally love the language. We guarantee that you get the lowest rate and the lowest fees.
I think that, you know, to have some case studies, like take 2 or 3 of your deals that you've done and even just have those in a presentation, you know, and spell it out, whatever, and show the actual value at the end of it. I mean, if you could do all that and like just give a few examples again, and here's my job for you. This is what I'm going to be doing. You're showing your value, you know, whatever. And I mean, again, it's getting them to the point where they just feel great about signing on with you, whatever. But it's also getting them to where they feel great about you getting paid,
Yeah.
you know, what you're worth at the end of it, you know. Because, you know, what do you do if there's a shortage in the fee?
Right.
They're offering 2%, but, you know, you're willing to take 2.5. What do you do with that? How do you guys handle that?
Yeah.
Anybody?
How do you handle that?
Because here's one of the things that I've done. I mean, and again, we had a buyer here recently. This was actually before the NAR settlement. There was a shortage, and my wife was working with them. They were looking. It was a referral that we got. They were looking up in like the 800,000s out here in Monument, and they were under contract, and that deal, they ended up walking out of that deal, and then they, and I remember my wife, she's like, oh my gosh, because it was like they had looked at home after home after home. They were both like engineer types, whatever, nothing wrong with that, but just, the details. And, and she finally got them back under contract, and there was a shortage in the fee. They came to closing, literally at the closing, they had a check made out to us, Lane Morrell, for like $8,000, and they were happy to pay it. They were so grateful by the time it was all said and done, and you've worked your butt off with this thing. And oh my gosh, we know we put you through the ringer, and it's been challenging, but and they found, and again, depending on the price range, buyers are going to have some buyers have this money to cover the difference,
Right.
Whatever. So I've had this talk for years. If you go back, probably 3 years ago, we had a training that Aaron Kinn did, how to get your full commission every time, long before the NAR thing ever came up.
Right.
And we'd always talk about that. Like, like hey, this house here, there's a shortage in our fee. I'm not going to let that get in the way of you getting this house. I want you to get this house, and we're going to get you the best deal we can on this house. But we're going to need to talk about that because there's a shortage here. How do you want to make up the difference? Now one of the things is, and we've done this many times, and I would almost prefer this sometimes, is like, look, I'll take the hit, but can you send me, 2 or 3, whatever, you come up with a number, really good referrals over the next 6 months? Oh, that'd be great, whatever. And you explain when you're showing your value, so they feel great about paying it. Absolutely. You've been awesome. Like, yeah, for sure. We'll send you, we'll keep our eyes and ears open and send you people. I'd much rather get a couple referrals anyway than the $3,000 we're short, and I used to do this, and we would do this. I even put it in writing. Doesn't mean anything. I'm not going to hold them to it. But when you put it in writing, whatever, Joe and Sue Smith, agree to send the Jeff Morrell home selling team to, buyer and or seller referrals, between now and whatever, June 10th or whatever the date might be, whatever, and have them sign it and you sign it. It's just something. And again, I will call them up a couple months into it. Hey, how's things going in the new house? And hey, just wanted to check in. Keep your ears and eyes open. If you got anybody that you could send our way. Whatever. And we've gotten a lot of referrals over the years by doing that, which leads to another 10, 15, 20,000 in commission. I'll gladly take that. So that's a thought. But I think to have a couple case studies in there, again, you want people to again, I think what he did, we all do all this stuff, but we haven't had to spell it out. And I think now if you can get that into a presentation and really have it spelled out for people, they feel great about using you, and they feel great about you getting paid, because you're showing them how much money you're going to save them when it's all said and done. You're going to save them whatever. Here's 3 examples of people I worked with, and here's how much we saved them by the time it was all said and done.
Wasn't it on the Freedom Team, Jeff, about a month ago that Jessica did her training where she broke down her spreadsheet? Was it on one of
I think
our
so.
trainings?
It was one of our trainings. Yeah.
So Jessica Tamaro 3-4 weeks ago did it. And so it's in the Freedom Team. And what she's been doing since the NAR is exactly what Jeff was talking about. She has a spreadsheet that she created that shows every dollar she saved the clients, right, in negotiations of repairs, off of the price, closing costs, all the things. And what she did is created, she went back and looked from January through August. This was in August. What's the average percent that she saved her clients from purchase price to closing net cost to the buyer? And I think it was like 8.9%. So when she's in her buyer meeting, she can confidently say, look, here's all the buyers I've served just this year. And when she's having that buyer consultation, I've saved them an average of 8.9%. My fee is X percent. Right. So, and she's got it all spelled out. So if they want to see her spreadsheet, she can, bring it out in black and white for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm finding that training right now. I'll put the link down here below in the chat.
Yeah,
I'm pulling that up right now. It was, if you didn't see that one, guys, that's absolutely, make a note and
Yep.
Here, let me
And
put this right here. You can just click on this link. It'll open it up and you can save it and watch it.
yeah,
Excellent
we can
training she
save
did.
and watch that. So that was a great training too.
There
I'm
you go.
kind of jumping it pretty far ahead, but when he was talking about the contracts, all the days become live once we go under contract, and you got the lender, you got the appraisal deadline, you got insurance has to be in place by this time, you got home inspections, have to be done. So you spouting all that off. I mean, a buyer, especially if they are not super savvy, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, all the details, you've already talked about, the loan and everything else beforehand. You get down to the contract and you start talking about timelines and, making sure that they're not missing timelines on all these different parts of the contract. And then you start talking about the reissue credit on title insurance. Does everybody know what that means? Is there anybody, raise your hand, because this is a valuable proposition for your buyers. Does anybody not know what that means? The reissue credit.
I don't know what it means. I only heard of that for flood insurance. You can reissue at the previous rate on flood insurance, but not title.
Okay, so if a seller has owned a home in our area, and Jeff, speak up, or any of y'all speak up if it's not the same in your area. If a seller has owned their home for 10 years or less, then you can get a copy of their owner's title policy. And if the seller can't find the owner's title policy because they don't get that at closing time in Tennessee, they don't. It comes in the mail about 30 days later after closing. So sometimes it gets with the original closing paperwork in a seller's file drawer, and sometimes it doesn't. So if they can't find the actual owner title policy, if you can find get them to find their closing statement that shows who they closed with, then you can contact the closing company that they closed with and get a copy of the owner's title policy. Most of them have that archived and can just email it out. And what that will do for the buyer, if the buyer in negotiations is the one that's going to be paying the title insurance, it will save them 30% on the title cost. So if the title cost is $2,000, that's $600 approximately that you're saving just by asking the seller for their copy of their owner policy to submit to your closing agency for the discount on the title policy. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So that's huge. And a lot of agents forget, either don't know it or they forget to do that.
Putting one more. Go ahead.
Talking about the whole contract stuff. I mean, I've said this for years and years. It's such it's a high percentage because of how the agents work together. They either make or break the deal. And as you heard Andrew saying in that video, is we train the seller how to talk to their agent. Yeah. And so again, if you're helping the quote unquote train the other agent of how to present or how to talk to their client, then the likelihood potentially of being able to get this worked out goes up even higher. So I liked that verbiage that he used too with the buyer. He said that a couple of times in a couple of these different points. When we present this to the selling agent, we train them how to present it to their seller.
I do want to share this. About 2 weeks ago, we got a call from our Google page, again, which is from Aaron's training on the Google business stuff. We had a call, and it's a guy here in town. He owns his house outright, paid cash for it a few years ago. He's now looking in Woodland Park, which is about 25, 30 minutes from here, because he wants to get closer to his grandkids. He's going to pay cash up there. When I called him up, he called us off his Google, off the Google page, whatever, and left a voicemail. I got the voicemail. I called him right back. And he's getting homes right now. He's actually looked at a few homes up there. He wasn't working with anybody. We had this conversation, whatever. And part of the thing in terms of like sending him homes, I asked him, are you getting, homes sent to you right now? Would you like us to set you up on a home search? Well, I'm already getting some stuff. I got several different agents sending me things. Have you signed on with any agents? Have you signed a buyer agency? No, I haven't done anything like that yet. I said, okay. I said, just so you know, I don't know what they're sending you, but our search also includes all of the pre-foreclosures, short sales, foreclosures, corporate relocations, all the distressed properties, divorce sales. I can get you some homes that aren't on the market yet. We can search those. We're going to send you all the expired listings, whatever, because those are still people that want to sell, but they just didn't get done. I can send you a whole bunch of stuff. Would that be helpful for you? Oh, that'd be great. So I set him up on that, and then we got talking about his house. Could we come by and take a look at your house? So again, that came out. We got over there and we signed him to a buyer agency. We signed a listing agreement on his house. Lane took him up to Woodland Park. He has looked at a couple things so far. Just by having that conversation of setting him up on that search, it opened that door, even though he was getting searches right now from several different agents. And it's going to, like, his house over here will sell for probably $450, $430, $450, somewhere in there. And then he's looking up there in Woodland Park, same thing. I mean, we're going to get 2 closings out of that by the time it's all said and done, minimum. We could double, who knows, maybe we'll double end on the sell side over here. But that one call and just that one conversation, which is what he talked about here when you set him up on a home search. Again, like that's going to lead to probably a $30,000 payday for us when it's all said and
Just
done.
articulating the things that we do. We do all this stuff. It's just being able to articulate it to the buyer, showing them the value. If you've been around a long time, especially, I take for granted all the things that I really do that provide that value. Michael Higdon, I'd love to hear from you. You sell a lot of real estate. What did you pick up from that video, or what thought do you have around it? I thought it was excellent.
Sorry, I think it's just conveying confidence and the stature you bring to that. And if you have any kind of buyer presentation, which I know we have tons of those on all of our EXP data, if you just sit down and present it with confidence and just say, listen, it's my job to present this to you, no matter, because you deserve this from the agent that's going to be representing you, because this is the largest transaction you're going to have probably in your lifetime up until this point. So if you don't have that from another agent that you're interviewing, that's one way I'm being valued. I'm more of like an 80-10. I'm more of a listing agent. I probably do 90% of my stuff is listing. So I haven't had an issue. I think I've had 4 buyer contracts I've written. I haven't had the issue of getting paid on those yet. So I haven't had to cross that bridge. On the seller side, I'm still fighting for agents. I'm like, listen, Mr. Seller, if you want agents to show your house, it's still important to bring the value and offer them a co-op, because there's a ton more agents out there that are representing buyers than there are just on this listing side. So it's still important to articulate our value, even especially on the listing side, because that trickles down to the buyer agents as well. So I think confidence for me is the main thing to sit down.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I agree.
He mentioned this along that.
Fake it until you make it. If you don't feel confident, you just fake it.
He had a line in there. We don't give our power away.
Yeah.
I wrote that down. Again, that confidence, when again talking to them about how we're going to present the offer to the listing agent, we're not going to give our power away.
Yeah.
Like I'm fighting for you. The other thing he mentioned here too, that clients only home services guide. Like after closing, like this, we're going to be in there for you, like, after this closes. We don't just walk. We're not just going to collect our check and walk away. You never hear from us again. We're going to be there for you, the next, 4 or 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, you're in the house, whatever. And the water heater goes out, whatever, like call me, because I can get you to the right people. Or you need, a good roofer or a plumber or whatever. And I think it's important for us we've had trainings on that about getting that list together. And we did that one where it was like, getting professional referrals. What's that? I forget. Don Yoakum had a great training on that, about that, getting professional referrals, getting referrals from those people, meeting them for coffee, meet the plumbers, meet the roofers, meet the whatever, and exchange cards, have coffee for 30 minutes and become their referral partner. whatever, but create that client home, the home services guy that you can now, you've got a list of people ready to go for when one of your past clients, train them and teach them that you're the one they need to call first before they just get online and start searching for a plumber. Call me first,
What comes to mind with you talking about that, Jeff? What if you created a nice booklet that's branded on the front with your information
Sure.
that is called the Home Buyer's Guide, and it's got all those contact names in there, all the services of all your preferred people, right? I
Mhm.
mean, and
got
give
one.
that to your client. You have one,
You have one,
Michael,
Mike?
that you
Yeah.
give?
Good.
Is it a little booklet or is it
No,
just
it's
a
pretty
branded list?
detailed. It carries them all the way through the process, and it has every I sent them that, and it coincides with my follow-up boss system where I've pre-recorded some messages on there. Where, like, if once you get it to pending, a video kicks over to them and says, "Hey, remember when I told you during our initial interview process, I was gonna walk you through all the way to articulate our value. Well, this is, here we are. You've reached the pending stage of the contract. What's going to happen next is my assistant or the person, your transaction coordinator, is going to reach out to you to set up the inspections. Then the lender's going to set up the appraisal once we get through inspections. Boom, you get through all that. The next phase of that is another video comes out where it's like, okay, hey, we're getting ready for closing. Here's what you should anticipate going into that. So once you get through that entire process and it goes all the way to closing, how's that going to look when they start referring people to you? Gosh, Kathy was so on top of everything all the way throughout the process, through the video, through the notes that she was sending out to me. And also, that buyer guide. So if you need a reference, just go to the buyer guide, because here's, lots of vendors that I work with, the inspector. You don't have to use them, but they're just the people that I know, like, and trust that have done a good job for me and for my buyers in the past.
Do you brand those per client, or are they just generic for each step along the way?
It's pretty just generic. So I'm
And
not
then you've
putting,
got
yeah.
it, so you can just have it initiate every time you go.
Yeah, it's
from
not putting
client-
there. It's just like, hey, congratulations, you've made it to this point of the process.
I love, yeah. How many of you guys have ever gotten over like a lender that keeps you in the loop like that with the video talking just what Michael's talking about? And I've never done that for a buyer, right? Every step, I mean, just like he talked about in the contract, there's 5 pieces to the offer, right? With contingencies and all. And, if you were sending a video about the timelines of every one of those along the way, okay, congratulations, you're under contract. And just a reminder, your earnest money or whatever it's called in your area is due in 3 days or less, right? Or whatever you've got in your contract. And, just sending those individual videos every step along the way of what's next. I love that idea of doing that.
Definitely.
Can I ask a couple questions, you guys?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah.
Cool. A lot of nuggets. I got tons of notes here. So one thing, when you're saying I'm going to get the best interest rate and terms from a lender, what makes me nervous about pitching that too strongly to a buyer is usually it's those big national lenders that are going to give them the best rate, right? But it's not going to often give them the best service. So I feel like that's going to tend to go towards Rocket or Loan Depot or something like that. But I don't typically want to work with those lenders. I end up having a lot of problems with those lenders oftentimes. So is there a way to manage that conversation to kind of be able to pitch that, but still pivot it towards, but we want to try to stay local for, value proposition, XYZ, whatever. Any thoughts on that?
I can help with that.
Yeah. Who's that?
I was
Marina, go
a
ahead.
lender. I was a lender for 14 years. I just gave up my license in December of 2022. Every lender uses Optimal Blue for pricing, and it's based on the index and the margin. So you have to ask what their margin is. And if you know what their margin is, the local competitors can meet that rate. Some of them will have to take it from their commission to get there. But if you can do that and find out what that margin is, a lot of the local lenders will take that to their supervisors and take it from their pool so that they can get that lower interest rate and beat out the nationals.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Marina. And the other thing is, I guess the first thing that came to my mind was to get the client or even yourself to get an estimated closing document, right, from Rocket, we'll say. And then same thing, take it to your lender and take it to your preferred lender and say, look, Rocket's going to offer them this. Obviously, I'd rather them keep them local and you do the deal. Can you match it?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'd just be scared about a race to the bottom on price versus here, there's value in a local lender for these reasons. And they're kind of like, they're okay to pay maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
Or something.
And 100% we need to educate the clients, just like we probably all do when they come already pre-approved, with a Rocket or one of those national lenders. We probably, I'm sure you do, Todd, talk about your experiences that you've had along the way that weren't so good and closings got delayed and all the other things that go along sometimes with using some of these national lenders. And so, and yes, it's a stressful process for buyers to go through. They want to get through. What is that saying? I want to get you through with the least amount of hassle. What is that saying, Jeff? You experienced agents would know. What is it? Get you through the process with, with the best price, with the least amount of hassles, with, I can't remember.
There's a phrase. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. There's a phrase. But yeah. What was your other question, Todd? You had another thought or question.
Yeah, last part. I know we're getting on the end time, but
You're good.
Wondering if Michael has any shareable templates, content for both of those things you mentioned about your guide and your video series system. It's probably some proprietary stuff or whatever, but if there's anything,
I'll send it over the one that I've got. So, I it's the one that I had from, gosh, this is from 6 years ago with Remax. I had my marketing guy just redo up everything and put my name and branding on it. But a lot of it you can take and, send it to your marketing person, whatever, but I'll send it to Jeff or Kathy and they can post it up on the main site. That's not, we all just, rip off and duplicate is what we do as realtors, but I'm happy to share that. I don't know if you use BombBomb for anything, but that's a great system for pre-recording videos on stuff. I use that in cooperation with Follow Up Boss, and then Elena Key is a master at Follow Up Boss, so she's implemented a lot of systems on that. So it's some of it can get really techy and intricate, so that's why I just kind of send it to other people and just say, hey, tell me what I need to do. But those three systems, BombBomb and Follow Up Boss, and just the manual that I have, be happy to share it.
Thanks, Michael. And you can do that same thing in KV Core.
Yeah.
You can take these, and utilize it in KV Core, because obviously with if you're with the EXP, you have that CRM. And so you can do in KV Core what he's doing with the Follow Up Boss, which is just another CRM, in setting up the drips once they're under contract.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much.
Sharing that, Michael.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Michael, if you
Michael.
just send them to me, then me or Jeff, or copy us both, then we'll get it loaded up with this video in the comments section once this video gets posted.
Yeah.
And Heather, BombBomb, it is that is right. It is spelled BOMB, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have KV Core, if you go to the marketplace in KV Core in the back office, it's in there as well. So it integrates really well with KV Core. BombBomb does. So just so you know, it's in there. But well, cool, guys. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. Again, it was a last minute switch we had to do. Julie did need to reschedule, so we apologize if you came expecting this negotiation training. We will get to that. Okay. But just had to pivot, and this is something we've been talking about doing anyway. So. Hopefully you got some good value out of this today. Hopefully so. We're back tomorrow just for the open mastermind. Okay. Every Wednesday, same Zoom link, same time. Come join us then. Okay. We'll all be back talking about anything and everything you want to talk about. So that's been good as well. So guys, have a great day. We're here for you if you need us. Let us know.
Have a great one.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.